But yeah, we're back here. I'm here with one of my best friends, my brother, fucking Ryan, here on the Slappy Hour podcast, Rye-Dawg, and we just got back from Root Canal Records. But, folks, we're not just talking about music and art and video games and all the shit we always talk about. We talk about the combination, which is why we like to talk about movies, TV, and some of the shit that inspires us not only to be friends, but I don't know. Omar wouldn't be here without art. I wouldn't be talking about half the fucking dorky shit or playing the games we did without it. And that's why we have our own segment dedicated to music, movies, TV, and all that shit. And if you're not familiar with it yet, you will be now. Because this is Kicking It Real. And that's right, we're back here on the Slappy Hour podcast. Actually, we're back here on Kicking It Real for another week of just, the Slappy Hour goblins and the Kicking Tea staff hanging out and talking about all the movies, TVs, shows that we've been into for over the past few weeks and that inspire us. First of all,
I'm staff now.
You are officially no longer an intern getting paid a piece of rice every episode.
I get a bowl.
A full bowl. We've upgraded you. But speaking of upgrades and full bowls, I guess, and just heaps of content and delicious sustenance, Ryan, Ozark, the final season. Now, before we get into any spoilers, because I have not seen it,
I'm not gonna spoil anything. Not only the final season, but just the, not even just the final season. And I'm not gonna give up any spoilers, but the entire show as a whole is just, I mean, Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad, those are probably two of like the best shows that have been on TV, but Ozark is close behind those two.
Despite Game of Thrones ending.
Yeah, I mean,
oh, you're a sympathizer. We can talk about this in a minute. Continue.
No. I mean, the Game of Thrones ending wasn't great, but we'll see how the spinoffs are.
Oh, dude, we got.
I don't know if they were maybe trying to set things up for the spinoffs.
I think we said last episode too. We're gonna of Kicking It Real. We're all gonna try and watch at least the first episode of the House of the Dragon. We'll let you guys know how we feel about that. But continue.
I want to try to watch that this week, but yeah, Ozark. I know people. There's the memes that go around all the time making fun of like the blue kind of color grading that they do, the blue filters. On the camera work, and it is a little extreme, but it does add to the vibe.
It adds to it for sure.
The story is so solid. If you don't know what Ozark is about, it's about
you can give a general,
an accountant that lives in Chicago, played by Jason Bateman, and his wife is like cheating on him. He hates his life, and his partner at his accounting firm gets his firm into trouble with cartel. So his partner gets killed, and then he has to kind of in and launder money for the cartel, and it goes from there. Chaos ensues, but they have to move down to the Ozarks to do this money laundering, pretty much take over this entire town. It's insane. It's so good. Without spoilers, it's hard, but
it's tough. Because I've seen up to like season 3. I've missed some episodes.
Yeah.
To comment on what you were saying, because like I have not finished the show. I've seen up to season 3, the ending of season 3, which it really pops off, without spoiling anything.
Yes.
But because season 3 came out, I remember during COVID, and I was actually talking. I actually remember talking to Ryan specifically after an episode came out. And I will say, I will give a spoiler warning here, and I'm only giving a spoiler warning now because it's one of the best performances I've ever seen on television or a subscription or whatever. So spoilers. There's spoilers here. Season 3, Ben. For someone who has dealt with mental health issues my entire life, and that's not because I'm special or like crying or looking for sympathy or shit like that, but we're transparent about this shit on this channel, especially. For someone who has dealt with like voices in his head and like very extreme paranoia to the point where when you're around your loved ones, it is worrying for them because like you're not the same person. It's very much dealing with OCD and anxiety and like paranoia specifically in such a strong capacity that you forget reality, and that's like a horror. Like for me specifically with COVID, that was a huge thing because I'm like, okay, like I've always been a sick kid. If I get sick, I'm gonna be able to pass it on to my family. They're all gonna like I'm gonna lose like crazy shit. And it gets you down to a point when you deal with like anxiety and things like that. A lot of people develop tics. Now, with Ben, it's a different thing. It's not tics. It's specific. It's schizophrenia. It's a different mental illness. But I just want to say, again, spoilers. That was like one of the most, just from a person that's been from like not that severe of a standpoint, but issues with that. That was one of the most accurate depictions of someone going through like paranoia and psychosis on modern television I have ever seen in my life. Not only from like the family dealing with the situation in reality, but also looking at it from a character's perspective, like being that person that's just in their head and they're like feel like there are people out to get them. It is just like I called Ryan. I talked to him like the day after the episode happened. I talked to my wife. I was crying my eyes out. I'm like, guys, I'm like so sorry if you have to deal with this shit. Like with me, it's So yeah, just like
they really took a lot of care with the show in that character and
other characters too.
I mean,
like
all the characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, particularly Ben's character. It just seemed ultra realistic. Like there was no me. They didn't phone it in. The actor didn't phone it in. The script didn't
not all
really got into it, and it really played into the story really well. Because they're playing this balancing act, dealing with the cartel. There's lies happening all the time, and then Ben, who plays Wendy Bird's brother, mother in the show.
The diner scene, dude.
She loves her brother, but his paranoid schizophrenia is probably going to get her family. So it's like this really intense dichotomy between, and it's horrifying to watch, but it's like your whole time.
Dude, I mean, yeah, and I'm sorry if I like rambled on too much about this specific scene because there is so much of Ozark. Like Ozark really is like, and we'll get to this at the end of the review of that. It really is like another version of Breaking Bad, and that's not saying it's taking from Breaking Bad. I'm saying like it is its own like it's like The Boys and Breaking Bad and itself Ozark, whereas it's one of those shows where you're watching because you're like, how the fuck are they gonna get out of this? This is the most tense. Like
Since Sopranos probably started the long form TV drama, there's been the Sopranos probably started the long form TV drama, and since then there's been a ton of hits, but through Netflix, a ton of flops of these drama series. You always have
so many
one seasons tops. But yeah, Ozark just was hit that Sopranos level, hit that Breaking Bad level.
Which that's why I gotta finish, the next season, man. I also just like
season 4, 2 parts.
So yeah. Speaking of that, I mean, just like we'll get a couple minutes just to talk about this specifically, but the performance is like Wendy is incredible.
You hate her. You want to kill her, but
she's good though. Like good. She is one of the smartest characters on fucking TV. Like resourcefulness.
Right.
Incredible. Jason Bateman is like, it's not his fault. He suffers because he has a very similar voice that people think he's the same and everything. But this is this is like, it's not the same to where, spoilers for Breaking Bad, you're not watching Walt go from a normal man exactly to becoming like this killer. Because, Marty Bird is doing that. But Walt is doing it more of like a pride ego thing throughout, where Marty is like, has a little bit of that. But there is something just like, about the way his brain works where it's different. It's not revenge. It's not anything like that. It's like he's actually is like trying to save his family and like
Yeah.
in a sense because I don't know. That is one thing that's a little bit different between the shows. Breaking Bad is realistic in a lot of ways, but I think like that is one thing where Ozark is a little more. I think the situations are a little scarier.
Yeah, yeah. If you're comparing it to Breaking Bad, Walt definitely like starts his journey under with his family in mind, but then it's too deep into it and starts doing it for his own egotistical. He's selfish about it.
Yeah.
Marty Bird, Jason Bateman's character, he always family in mind. I mean, there's some things he does selfishly,
For
but
sure.
he doesn't fall off that train too far.
And I feel like half of that, like compared to Walt, like Walt starts like off in fear because of the cancer he was dealing with and things like that. Like how am I gonna be able to survive? Yeah, Walt it becomes more egotistical. Where Marty is like, the difference is Marty is fear. Like and like
Yeah.
we were joking originally about like the show's like blue filter and stuff like that and that like but like really that adds where if you think about Breaking Bad like there's horrifying moments like Todd is one of the scariest characters I could ever fucking imagine, but the way
He's engaged to Kirsten Dunst in real life.
and Fargo and shit, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's another thing. Just like even the little things like color grading, like Breaking Bad might be in a desert, but it's still like there's quirky like poppy like Tarantino moments. There's like funny like dark humor, and there is that in Breaking Bad too. But Ozark, but Ozark I think just overall is much like hard like darker because it introduces an element of fear as opposed to an element of like ascension for a villain.
Right.
You're not creating a villain as
Right,
much,
right.
But speaking of villains, that was some heavy topics. So we're gonna go to a little lighter one. Speaking of shows, but villains, murders, and stuff like that. Only Murders in the Building season 2. Now Ryan saw the first season, right? You were saying?
Yep.
Now,
Yeah, I didn't even know the first season wrapped. It ended long ago, and I feel like season 2 came out really quick.
It surprise dropped on us too.
Right.
Our tradition is, when Warren and I watch a show, it's usually we're getting our Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supreme, the vegan version, usually the meaty version. We'll do that. And then when we get home, of course, before we watch any of our together shows, we have to put that in the oven, bake it a little bit so it gets nice and crispy, the shells, the tacos,
Never done that.
And then you get the Baja.
Is that a hack?
It kind of feels like a hack. We do it every time. It just feels like a little more crunchy and fresh. And then I always get a Baja Blast and I put vodka in there. We have a little
Nice.
But yeah, so we loved the first season. We thought it was fucking incredible. It's like your classic. It's Steve Martin Short, and Selena Gomez, who's wonderful in it.
Yeah, she's really good in it.
It's like Ryan. You say like just overall the vibe of the show in general. Just for seeing season 1, it's just like a classic like whodunit, but it is the most not cringy, but it is the most like that's why I give it credit. Authentic like New York kind of like whodunit. It has such a like a real New York vibe, and that's not like us being pretentious. We lived in New York at different times, like Brooklyn, Queens, different areas, but like just like the little jokes like about like people on the street or like this deli or shit like that. It's very like authentic, and the whole time like it as far as whodunit goes, it really has you like wrapped around its finger. It's stressful. It's like scary.
Yeah,
but it's
good. I mean,
yeah.
As far as season 1 goes, Steve Martin Short, they like bring like they're both brilliant like actor, and they're legendary. They bring like this boomer element to it that's like kind of cringy, but like it really works for some reason. I think it's purposeful. But yeah. I mean, I don't know what season 2 is like. I don't know what the murder or the conflict is, but season 1 really caught me off guard at the end.
Oh my god!
I figured it out like seconds before they actually had the reveal.
Yeah, I just like to your point
really
about
good.
that. Like, it does have like the old like there like that continues in season 2. Like there are for sure like old man jokes. There's definitely like and it's best friends. It's Martin Short and Steve Martin. Like when they go on a riff for a couple of segments, they're like, we're just gonna let the legends go. They can like joke around for a little bit.
Right.
So there's a lot of joke about like them being old and shit like that. But as far as like the boomer aspect of it, they do such a good job of like not just making like a cringy kind of like heavy. They're never heavy-handed. It's like,
and for their age too, both
oh
of
my
them,
god,
they look fantastic.
they look fantastic. They're witty as shit. The
They're
humor
sharp.
is fucked up.
They're I think they're both pushing 80.
That's fucking crazy. They look like great, and they perform like extremely well.
Yeah.
I will say season 2. I don't know which. I think I liked 1 better just because it's like I felt this about Stranger Things as well. I'm not caught up on Stranger Things. I've only seen the first 3 seasons.
You're more than me. I have to catch up on that too.
Yeah, but my whole thing about that is, I think the first season of a lot of shows are always the best because it's the most surprising. Like the first season of Breaking Bad is different. I won't go there. But like Stranger Things, the first season was like, I'm terrified of the Demogorgon. This is fucked.
Right.
Like, spoilers, the Barb pool thing fucked me up. I was living alone.
Justice.
I lived alone at a pool, like with a pool in the dark by myself for a whole like year. It was scary. So like that was scary. And then like, now that you're more introduced to these characters and like the world, it's different like with the continuous seasons. So season 2 is really good. It's still twisty. I just like haven't had a final review yet. But overall, it's still worth watching. It's fucking funny as hell. Same energy. And it is different in some ways. So yeah, Only Murders in the Building season 2, fantastic. Definitely check it out. Check out Ozark for sure if you haven't yet. And that's going to be Kicking It Real for this week. Again, remember to rate us on Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Music if you really feel so inclined. It really helps us out. Check us out on our Patreon and our TikTok as well. We're really trying to push that. And yeah, we're just going to cut right back to the show. And then, we're going to say goodbye.